This will be part 9 in the series of tutorials for our City Spell application. It's also the third one in stage 3, maybe the last one in stage 3, we'll see. And we got as far in the guide as completing step 16, where we added, the music, and we're ready to add the wind scene. Before we do that, just a few tips. If you look at the city and it looks either too dark, too light, things that you can do, to your own taste is go to Window, Rendering, Lighting, and I find that the biggest change is going to happen to Environment by controlling the environmental lighting and the color of the fog. So, for instance, in the environmental lighting, right now we got the skybox, and some people might say, hey, that's a little too light. You can always change it from skybox to color, and then by controlling the darkness of that color to make the whole city darker or lighter. You can also, of course, tint it with like a really weird color, but that's totally up to you. I'm just going up and down the grayscale. This actually looks pretty cool to me. The other thing we could do in that same window is think of, the fog, the color of the fog. Again, the lighter the color, the more foggy it looks, and the darker the color, the less fog you noticed. So it's totally up to your taste. But let's continue to creating the wind scene. And the wind scene is actually relatively easy to create. So if, and only if, we're on step number 17, everything looks and functions well, let me move this. We're going to duplicate the main scene and call the duplicate main. Call the duplicate win. With exact name, capital W, because this is the way we already mentioned it in the scripting. Make sure you double click to open the win scene. It happened to me already where you duplicate a scene and then you start working on it only to realize you've been working on the old one instead of the new one. So what are we going to change in win? So first of all, let's go to scenes, find main, edit, duplicate instead of main one. Call it win, capital W. Double click on it, save whatever we need to save, and now we're in the scene called win, which right now, of course, looks like a total copy of main. But what are we going to change? Let's look at it. In the win scene, directional light changes back to a nice bright light. So directional light, 030, 50 degrees above ground, and 30 instead of negative 30. And we're going to go to a nice yellow color, like almost white, like eggshell yellow, like the sun. And intensity is going to go to 1. We can already see some changes here. And still no shadows and everything. Oh, and important. Rendering mode is going to change to important because now the sun is important. The next thing we're going to do is the sky. In the City Asset Teachers, we're going to find My Day Sky, make sure its texture size is cube. I think the way I'm giving you the assets to you, it already is, but we still got to check it. So textures and My Day Sky, and we're going to make sure that the texture shape is cube. If you needed to change it, you'll also have to click apply, but it already is, which means we're ready to create a material, a skybox material. My day sky, a day sky, doesn't matter as long as you know what it is. So create material. If I did my in the first one, I'll do my in this one. My day sky. The important thing again is to create a skybox, is to change the shader from standard to skybox, and in this case the skybox is based on a cube map. We're going to assign the cube map, which is called My Day Sky, and we got a nice sky right there. And a day sky. My day sky doesn't really matter. We're going to change the image cube map to my day sky, and exposure is going to be 1. So we're really not changing anything here except giving it this very sunny, day sky. So we just did step number 20. We're going to change now the main thing, which is the rendering lighting. So I'm going to move this aside so we can open the window rendering lighting and compare what we got with this. So environment. First of all, instead of my night sky, day sky. The second thing we're going to do is sun source is the directional light. The real-time shadow doesn't need to change. The environmental lighting definitely is going to be color, but it's going to be this very light yellow, almost white, kind of eggshell yellow, could be a little yellowish. These three don't change. The intensity multiplier all the way down. I don't want it to be like, too blinding. And very important, the fog is lifted. It's going to be turned off. So none of the other settings on the fog matter because we just turned it off. And if we look at our city now, it looks nice and sunny and, definitely not under a spell. And again, just like the other ones, if we want to, we can adjust it. Something I just remembered I want to go back to before we finish this. Something just, for convenience of developing. If I go back to scenes and I go back to the main scene, sometimes we find that in the scene window, if I zoom out to a certain point, because I'm looking at the scene from above, because we got fog in the main scene, you see what happens? It turns like gray, and we're like, how am I going to see anything? What we could do in this case is change to not full rendering. Instead of this one, which is shaded draw mode, I can go to the wireframe, or even to this one, which is the wireframe draw mode, and then I can see, what I'm doing. Then go back to this. If I get close enough, I can start seeing what's happening. So I'm going back to the wind scene, and let's see what else we need to do for the wind scene. In the app manager, we're going to remove the script we got, because that script was good for the main scene, for the gems and all that stuff. We're going to remove the script, not delete, but just remove it from the app manager, and we're going to add a script called replay script, because the only job of the wind scene is to show you, the cursor has been lifted, and if you want to, you can replay. So we're going to create a script called replay script. You can add it by going add component, or you can go to my script, right click and create it, which I already did. And in any case, it gets added to the app manager. And it's a pretty short script. Just make sure that you type the name correctly and exact, capital R, capital S, no spaces. Make sure it's saved to my scripts folder, and the only thing in that script is those lines. I'm assuming you're going to pause for a few moments to type it. And I'm assuming that if you hear my voice right now that you came back. And let's go over it. It's a very simple script. If I open the replay script, all it does is listen. It doesn't have any, start. It's not about collision or anything like that. It just keeps listening. Let's see if it opens. Here it is. It's got two usings, two libraries, the Unity engine and the scene management, because it's used for taking us back to the main scene. The public class replay script, of course, matches the name of the file. And the only function it has is update. Don't forget that update is with a capital U. And it listens 72 times a second if OVR, get OVR input raw button left index trigger. In other words, if someone pressed the left index trigger, the hand that's holding the wand. Scene manager, load scene, main. This is why it's important that the main scene is spelled like this, and it just takes us back to main. That's it. So all it does is listen on update to see if someone squeezed the trigger. Actually, that tells me that I might have phrased something a little wrong in the main scene. In the instructions for the user, let's see if I go back to scenes, main, and look at the UI. Let's see if I told the users that it's just the left controller. The city's under dark spell. Yeah, that's fine. Because we're about to insert new instructions. Maybe those I need to change. In the win scene, yeah, these instructions will have to tell the user that to replay only the left will work. Of course, if you know code, you can change it to the right. That doesn't matter. Back to the instructions. Yes, and here we go. Yeah, use the left trigger, so I don't need to change anything. I'm usually pretty predictably consistent. In the text in the UI, we're going to replace the text with "the city is saved," those 4 lines. Instead of "the city is under a spell," UI, canvas, instructions, instead of all of this, "the city is saved." Yay! To explore the city, use your left controller joystick. To play again, use the left trigger. And to exit, a short trick on the meta button on the right controller. As you know, that always brings up the quit button in the meta, once we build to meta. Other things we're going to change, pretty simple ones that we're going to change, is we're going to change the text color to white, because right now red looks inappropriate. We don't need the treasures container, we don't need the dust storm, and in the music we're going to replace the music with day music. So let's do all of those things. So first of all, the color will be white, which reads a lot better. The other thing that we're going to do, of course, if the location needs to be changed, we can always bring it up, down, and so on. But you know how to do that. The dust storm does not belong in the day. I can either disable or delete it. The treasures are gone in this scene, and also the music, instead of city spell music, we need day music. Same settings, it loops, it plays on awake. We're going to have one more sound, because what I want is for the music to start, but also nice cheer that, yay, the spell has been lifted. So we're going to duplicate the music object, just to have one that already has, all the components we need, but instead we're going to call it, I think, like crowd or cheer. Doesn't really matter. And here it is. That's the one. So when I play the scene, it starts with both sounds. Very cool. Save. And we're getting pretty close. We just did duplicate the music object, cheers. We're good. We added the crowd sound. Now we don't really need the script for the wand, and we don't really need the gem indicators. All of them should go back to being like enabled, because we won the game. So first of all, my wand 7 inside camera rig, inside the left-hand controller, wand 7. The script is not needed anymore. Either remove it or disable it. And inside wand 7, or my wand 7, doesn't matter, in the gem indicator, we want all the gems. I'm selecting, holding shift. All of them are going to be on, because we earned it. we found all the different, if we got to the win scene, that means that we got all of them. Enable all 5 indicators. I'm going to delete or disable the monsters. There's no monsters in the city that's not under a spell anymore. But instead, and this is almost the last step, we're going to find, instead, we're going to create a game object, an empty game object called people. So instead of monsters, now they're regular people. So just like we had 3 kinds of monsters and we placed 3 instances of each for a total of 9, we're going to do the same thing for the people. So I already did it to save time. It's going to look something like this. I made it a prefab just so it's easier, but you don't have to. Here, this is an empty game object. I'm going to reset its position. And this empty game object, I'm going to drag into it from the teacher's assets. There's a folder called characters. I have monster prefabs, which we used already, but I have also people prefabs. I got Orisa, which looks like this. I got peasant girl, and I got peasant man. And into people, I'm going to drag 3 instances of Orisa. Let's see what Orisa looks like. Here they are. This is Orisa, and this is peasant girl, and this is peasant girl 2, and so on. The places where I place them is kind of like on the roofs, on the on the balconies, and some of them on the floor. Of course, you can do more. Don't do too many because they might slow down the game. The important thing is that once you drag them in, and actually, of course, you name them. The 3 Orisas, 1, 2, 3, 3 peasant girls, 1, 2, 3, and 3 peasant man, 1, 2, 3. Holding shift, we're going to select all of them because just like the monsters, they all come with that script called look at. And I want them to look at the camera. When I pass by them, I want it to look at me and show their, how happy they are. So I'm going to select all of them, hold the first one, shift, select the last one. They all have the script called look at, but they don't know which target to look at. They need to look at, drag it in, the OVR camera. In other words, at me while I'm playing the game. Drag populate the field, OVR controller. That way all the monsters will always face the camera. That was step number 33. Then in your own time, which I already did, give all of those 9 people these specific X, Y, and Z's. Those are, of course, my preferences. I placed let me show you. I placed, when I play, you can be able to see it. If they face the camera, they have their little dances and so on. Some of them I added, some of the effects that came from the KY magic effects. They're on the balconies, they're in the streets. I can, place a little more. But again, it's, if the city, if the spell is been lifted, it would look kind of weird if there were no people in the city. So at least around the camera, I'm placing some. And we're almost done. And this is the last step. What I want you to do is not just be content with the 6 different characters, which are the 3 monsters and the 3 kinds of people that I brought in. I want you to be able to do it yourself. So in the same module as Stage 3, there's going to be another guide, an extra guide, called How to Use Mixamo.com. This is where those characters came from in Unity. This is a step that's going to be worth 5%. In other words, you can get only 95 on this lab if you don't do it. On this module, to add at least 1 more, of course you could do more, character to the win scene or the main. You can add another monster or 2, or you can add another person to the win scene. Your choice, or both. You can use any of the characters as long as it's not one of the ones supplied by the teacher, and your new character must have an animation. The video shows how, and you can place it anywhere you fit. And of course, this is a separate extra tutorial. You can call it number 10. You can call it the extra one after, this one, which is number 9. Of course, after you do all that, you do the same things that you do with all the other parts of the project. You zip it. If it's bigger than 2 gigabytes, you remove the library and submit it on the due date and time. When you submit, what I would like you to do, so I can find the extra characters that you added from Mixamo, specify the XYZ of the characters that you added, so I won't have to search the whole city to find them. And one more thing, since this is the last one, as they say, the proof is in the pudding, or the proof is in the build. I will need to see it built. This is probably going to happen on one of the last classes that we have. We're going to use, school. If you have your own, you can, of course, shoot a video. And grade will be entered only when the teacher sees that it, not only that you submitted to your course shell, but when it's built to Quest, and we can use school devices on your own. Good luck.